Warning: the following podcast has been rated listener R due to strong language, violent situations, drug references, sexual innuendos, and who knows what else. Listener discretion is advised. With that being said, hang on, sugar tits, because we're about to get wobbled.
What's going on, Let's Get Wobbled podcast fam? It's Clayton Wobble Elliott back with another episode of the Let's Get Wobbled podcast. So for this episode, there's a couple things that I wanted to get off my chest, talk about, whatever, but start off with just a little review of the last couple weeks. Groundhog Day has come and went. Puxatawny Phil said 6 more weeks of winter, and I was like, fuck, that kind of sucks, because I'm just ready to get out of this fucking seasonal depression bullshit. I'm ready to get the weather temps back up in the 50s and 60s again, ready to get the motorcycle back out and start doing shit instead of being cooped up in the house where it's been too cold to do anything. Me and the guys at work were talking, and we're like, man, this winter has sucked because you just can't get out and do anything in these cold temps, and there's just not much really you can do. But we're sitting and talking about that, and like I said, Puxatawny Phil said 6 more weeks of winter. Buckeye Chuck said we're good. Should be an early spring. It's always hard to tell exactly what's going to happen. We've mentioned before on this podcast, and I've mentioned with a bunch of friends of mine, I'm definitely in the wrong profession. I should have went and become a meteorologist right out of college, because it doesn't matter what those guys say is going to happen. They get paid just to do it. They're not getting paid whether they're right or wrong, but they're just getting paid to predict what could possibly happen. I could tell you it's going to be sunny and 75 tomorrow and be wrong and still get paid for it. That would be fucking great. I don't understand why. I just don't know. The profession that I chose was definitely the wrong profession, but neither here nor there. I'm just fucking ready for spring. I know Cleveland is less than 100 days away now. I'm super excited for it. I'm ready for it to come because I know Cleveland is normally like the big start and where we start our motorcycle season at. It seems like around that time temperatures get warm enough where, I mean, you're still wearing a hoodie out while you're riding, but it's not so cold that you're uncomfortable or you're miserable or you don't feel cold while you're riding. The sun's still beating on you and it still feels really good. But definitely ready for that. But some things that I really want to kind of dive into as a topic for this. You guys have already read the topic, so you'll know. But there's 2 things really that I want to really focus on and hit on this episode. And the first small piece is just something I want to share with you guys. The topic that I want to go with is being okay with who you are as a person and not caring about what others think about you. So I'm one of those people, I try to leave a good impression everywhere I go, especially first impressions. First impressions are really big on me because that's how somebody's going to see you. They're going to remember their first impression of you. They're going to, I guess, judge you, or that's basically your opening hand. Like you're showing somebody kind of who you are. So first impressions are normally pretty big for me, and I try to leave good impressions. But I was at a party over the weekend, a diaper party for polling. We were hanging out with him and getting him all ready for his baby coming here shortly. I can't wait to meet their little boy that they're having. I'm so excited for them. I'm happy everything's going well, and I can't wait to see how he is as a father. He's a great dude, one of my best friends, and I can't wait to see how the fatherhood aspect changes him and just kind of see him grow. And I can't wait. I'm super excited for them. So, buddy, if you're listening to this, I'm just as excited as you guys are. So I can't wait. But I was at his party, and another friend of mine was talking to me and said, hey, do you know so-and-so? And I said, yeah. And they said, okay, I had a training with them at work, and they were asking somebody else. He had just overheard the conversation. I'm not going to name names because it's not who I am. I'm not throwing anybody underneath the bus. I'm just using this as a topic, I guess. But 2 people were talking about me while I wasn't at training. And they were like, hey, do you know Elliot? Another person, yeah, I know him. I know of him. And the person asking was like, is he kind of like slow or is he just plain stupid? And this is what my friend is telling me that he's overhearing during this training. And I kind of looked at him sideways and I was like, okay, whatever. I don't give a fuck, whatever those people think. And he's like, I turned around and I told that person who was talking kind of shitty about you that no, I know that guy. I know him personally. I let him around my wife. I let him around my kids. We're super close. You know, that's my fucking dude you're talking about. So if you've got shit to say, fucking, I'll set you straight. I'll tell you what kind of guy he is. And I kind of laughed about it. And I got to thinking in my head, I'm like, I kind of wish he wouldn't have said anything just to kind of to know why they're asking if they think that I'm this kind of person. But at the same time, I realized that the only opinion that matters about yourself is yours. I listened to another podcast a little bit ago, and the guy was talking about the clothes that you wear. We don't pick clothes out to impress other people. We pick the clothes that we feel comfortable in or that feel comfortable to us. So why are we trying to impress other people with the way that we dress? It's the same way with anything else. I know who I am as a person. I try to be loving, caring, respecting, and I show everybody the benefit of the doubt. And I give trust without it being earned, just because I know you have to give trust and you have to give respect to get it. And I feel like if you show those things to people, it's reciprocated both ways. And I feel like that's super important to me. But at the end of the day, my opinion of me is the only thing that matters. I know that I'm doing well. I'm not doing amazing, but I'm holding my own with my shit. But it was just funny to have him tell me that somebody was talking shit. Which, I mean, if you really want to sit back and think about it, I probably am a little bit slow, and I might be fucking just plain stupid. Like, so be it. I don't give a fuck what you think. If that's what you want to think, so be it. Like, I don't know this person really from Adam or Eve. I know this person just in passing, but like, if you want to know who I am, ask about me. I'll tell you about me. But if you don't, you just want to make your own assumptions, so be it. That just goes to show what kind of character you have. But if there's anybody out there wondering, like, if you think that I'm slow, you're probably right. I am a little off. I'm different. But I like that about me. I'm not somebody that you've ever fucking met before. And I like that about my personality. You know, I try to be somebody. I try to be Clayton. That's who the fuck I want to be, is myself. I don't try to be anybody else. I don't act like anybody else because I want to be me. I want people to genuinely love me for who I am. And those are the kind of people that I want in my corner. And if that's not who you are, then I'm perfectly okay with that. It's being okay with who I am and in myself. And I hope that you, as the listeners, also do this. I hope you guys don't care what other people think about you. And if you do, you're wasting time. It really just so much of a time grab that it's not even worth the extra thought and putting into it of what people really care about you and what people really think at the end of the day about you. It doesn't matter. As long as you're being you and you're being true to yourself, what's it matter? But I thought that was funny, and I was talking to my buddy about it, and I was like, I'm glad they did. He checked them, but at the same time, I was like, man, I almost wish that you didn't say nothing, just to kind of see where the conversation went to. But like, how can you be mad at a friend of yours for standing up for you and your personality and who you are as a person? Like, I can't be mad at him for that. And I told him, I was like, dude, I appreciate it. Just know that you didn't have to. Like, I don't give a fuck. My friendships are my friendships. The people who I hang out with are the people that I trust near and dear, and that's just it. And you know who those people. If you're one of those people, you know. If you have to question whether I trust you or whether I think you're a good person, then that's where you stand. I mean, if you know that this guy trusts me, I know who Elliot is, I know who this cat is, he knows me. Then you know where you're at. You know you're in the clear with me. I don't make it to where it's a game and you have to figure it out. It's plain and simple with me. But I wanted to get that out to you guys because it was just funny to think about and just talk back and forth about. And with me talking with my buddy about it, and then I brought it home to Kristen. I was telling her about it, and I'm like, it's just funny to see what people's perspective of you is, what people think without even knowing you. It's just kind of funny to see. And if they want to believe that I'm somebody different, or they want to believe that I'm just a little odd or kind of fucking weird, yeah, they're probably right. You know, I'm probably not somebody you want to fucking hang around with if you think that I'm weird like that. And so be it. I'm not going to waste the time and energy to worry about it. Like I said, if you know that you're in my circle, you already know we're set. And I hope you guys also believe the same, along the same lines as that. And if you don't, I really hope that you're able to, because it's really not worth the burden of worrying about what the fuck other people think. I try to, like I said, I try to leave a good impression, but you're going to take away from it what you want, and that shows your character. What you take away from me shows what you are as a person. So do with that information of what you will. But the big topic of today's podcast, which is what we're going to get to, we're going to talk about this whole fucking thing, and it's going to get deep. It's going to get fucking awkward. But I just think this needs put out. I think that people need to know and people need to understand. People need to see these things, and you'll get more into what I'm saying here as the podcast progresses. But a topic that I wanted to talk about is something that's really controversial. A lot of people will argue one side of the fence or the other about this topic, and I wanted to kind of put out where I stand with this topic and where I used to, because I feel like I was misconception and I had the misconception of this topic, and I was kind of misled, I guess, being around different people. But like I said, you guys will understand more about it as we go on. The topic of the day is addiction. Is it a disease? Is it a choice? Are you fighting an addiction of something that you feel is a problem? How to overcome an addiction. So that's kind of where the big topic is today. So with me, and you're going to see where I stand on this. I'll talk about it as we go. But a substance use disorder is considered a chronic disease of brain reward, motivation, memory, and related circuitry per, like, if you Google search it, which is what I did. I tried to do a lot of research about this, try to figure out, because I know where I want to stand as a person and where my thought lies. But I thought, let's get both sides of the coin here. Let's look and see where everybody's at. Let's look and see what people are saying. But people are saying that any kind of substance disorder, they're calling it a chronic disease. So where I stand on this is I believe that an addiction is a choice that leads to a disease. I used to be a person that says, no, an addiction is a choice. And for me personally, with the addictions that I had, it was a choice. It was a choice every time. And I feel like it's always a choice to everybody. But after talking with some people and some professionals in the industry, I guess you would say, it can become a disease because your body literally just, your mind cannot focus and cannot think about anything else other than that addiction that you go through. So I'll talk more about that after a bit. I want to kind of get into some of the shit that I personally experienced. And this is where it's going to get a little hairy. And I'll just say that now, because one of these things everybody knows about me, I believe. One of the addictions that I've faced, a lot of people know. Another addiction that I had that I have overcome is something that my parents don't even know. They're probably going to listen to this and figure this out, but I just never told them, just because it was something that I fought really hard with in my life. And I've told my fiance about, just because I know it's something that you have to kind of open up about it. But I didn't even feel the need to tell my parents, because I'm like, it's not worth the time of day to fucking bother them with it. But I'll explain all this as we go. So I want to say that both of my addictions that I had started, or I at least brought around these addictions while I was in college. So obviously, I'll get to the easy one first. My nicotine addiction is what a lot of people know that I have, obviously. I put in my notes that college fucked me up and got me on the starting point for both of my addictions, with nicotine being one of those. Growing up in high school and even in college, I thought smoking and rubbing was disgusting. I remember a buddy of mine that I went to college with, we both sat down and we were talking about it, and seeing other people smoke off campus and then go onto campus and go into classes, or smelling somebody that smelled like cigarette smoke as they walked into class. And you're like, that's fucking gross. We were both like, we would never date somebody who smoked, because that's just gross. Our parents both smoked. And as kids, you get used to it as your parents do it. But once you're away from it for so long, I thought people who smoked were disgusting. I was like, this is just gross. It's a bad habit. Why are people doing this? Why would they continue to do it if they know it's bad for them? Whatever. But to get into why this is an issue for me and how it all became part, the first time I knew of cigarettes, obviously, because like I said, my parents had both smoked for a point in time. My mom was on and off. I know she had quit smoking cigarettes when she was pregnant with me. And then I was told she quit smoking cigarettes when she was pregnant with my brother. And I believe after she got pregnant with my brother and had my brother, she quit smoking altogether. I believe, if I'm not mistaken. Um, my dad was off and on a smoker, and he would switch between smoking, rubbing snuff, whatever. But the first time I ever saw a vape, when the big vape dilemma, or however the fuck you want to put it, the first time I'd ever saw a vape was in a college dorm room. I remember walking into a friend of mine's dorm room. We were hanging out. They were having just like a little, I don't know if it's a watch party for a football game or what it was, but they had a grocery bag taped over top of the smoke alarm in the dorm room. And I was like, why the fuck would they do that? The room doesn't smell like weed, so they're not smoking weed in here. It's kind of weird. And the shitty part was when we were at the college, the first dorm room that I was in was on the fourth floor of this like 7-story building. And the fourth floor was where the fire exit was. So you would have to come all the way down the stairs to the fourth floor to get out, or you would start at the third floor and you could go up to the fourth floor to get out, or you could go down to the lobby and get out. But our room was directly beside the fire exit. And at the college that I went to, a lot of people would love to come down the fire exit. They would open the fire door and prop it open with a rock and would sit out on the little fucking steps by the fire exit and smoke pot all the fucking time. I remember it was a fucking problem for a minute. And me being fat, I like the air conditioner on even in the spring, fall. The air conditioner would suck in the fucking smoke from the marijuana and blow it into our room. So our room always smelled like pot. And I told my buddy, I was like, neither of us smoke pot. I know we don't. But our room fucking reeks of marijuana. And I'm like, I'm not going to be the one that's going to get in trouble for this dumb shit. I always hated it, but it finally did quit, and people must have gotten caught for it or whatever. But it finally went away after a while. And I also moved to a different room after my second semester there. So, but the first time I ever seen a vape was in college. The bag was over the smoke alarm. I thought, this is really weird. I asked a buddy of mine about it. He's like, oh yeah, these vape things are really. I mean, this is just where it's at. If you used to smoke cigarettes, this is the way to go. And hitting these vapes and blowing huge clouds. I was like, what in the fuck is this? Like, why are people doing this? Like, that can't be any better than what cigarettes are. Of course, then you see all the studies and they're saying vaping's so much better for you, that it's vapes were made to help people quit smoking, or at least that's what they say. I really think they were targeting the younger generation. It wasn't to help people stop smoking. It was to get teens into smoking without going straight to cigarettes. Like, hey, this is a less harsh way to fuck up your lungs. So try this. It tastes good. But I didn't think anything about it. I never smoked through college. After I graduated college, I come back and started trucking, started working for a garbage company around home, got my CDLs, stuff like that. And believe it or not, the person who introduced me, the first family member that I knew that had vaped, was my brother. And I watched him do it for a while. One day I just asked what it was like. He said he really enjoyed it. It tasted good. He got this juice that was really fruity and fucking weird taste. I can't remember what the fuck it was, but so I would hit it once and I'd cough my fucking lungs up, and I was like, man, this is miserable. How the fuck do you do it? This is gross. My chest feels weird. What the fuck? So then I would find myself like trying and continuing to try to make it work, because I was like, well, maybe I'm doing something wrong, blah, 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 whatever. And that's just how it starts. It starts super easy. So I remember the first time that I had bought my own vape, I asked my brother what he had, got the exact same thing that he had, got the juice that he had. I had got it all set up. I was at a public event with some friends and some people from the firehouse. I drove from the event that I was at, was a 6-minute drive home. It was all interstate. You literally leave the venue that I was at, got on the interstate, drove 6 minutes, got off the interstate, and my house at the time was right off the interstate. I vaped from the time I left the parking lot of the event center to the house. And by the time I got to the house, I put the car in park. I turned the car off, opened the door of the car, and thought I was drunk. I was so fucked up. My head was so lightheaded. I was like, man, I can't even stand up straight. Like, I'm just spinning. This whole fucking car is spinning. Like, I don't understand it. And I had to sit in the car for a little bit to fucking come down off the nicotine buzz to even get in the house. And I thought to myself, why am I doing this? Like, what's the point in this? This isn't fun. This isn't, yeah, it tastes good. It's a good time, but like, it's fucking with my head. And I told my brother when I got inside, I was like, man, I had this vape and it was really bad. Like, I only drove 6 minutes and I got all fucked up from it. I told him, I was like, I don't want it anymore. Fucking take it away from me, whatever. That next day, I went to my brother and I was like, hey, I need that vape back. Because that's how that nicotine addiction, it just fucking starts. It holds on to you. It's just weird what nicotine does for you. It gives you that, it's a stimulant. I know that. And I think I did research on it, but I didn't write the fucking shit down. But I think it releases dopamine, I believe. And that's like the addictive fucking shit for it, I guess. But I know there's natural ways to get dopamine into your body. And me and Kristen were talking about it. Like, the problem is the dopamine that you feel in its raw natural state is so much less than what you're getting from, whether it be nicotine, whether it be hard drugs, whether it be anything that you're doing in addiction. Those are all like a synthetic version of, or so hyped up version of the dopamine that you would experience for just doing something good or getting the right amount of sleep. So you're never going to feel that dopamine again to that level, to that extent, I guess what I would say. I'm probably fucking this all up. I'm not a doctor. I'm probably making all this shit up. It's fine. So after that, I vaped on and off for some time, and then I switched to nicotine pouches. I thought I was doing the right thing, switching to nicotine pouches. I thought, well, I'll help my lungs, and I'll just switch to nicotine pouches. And I remember the first time I got them, was driving truck. I stopped at a gas station, grabbed the nicotine pouches. They were on nicotine pouches. They were mint, I believe, at the time was what I was rubbing at the time. I got the 2 milligram the packet of 2 milligram on pouches. I got back to the truck and I thought, okay, I'm used to vaping 4 milligram nicotine now. So let's go ahead and put 2 milligram pouches in my lip. That way it'll be 4 milligrams of nicotine. I'll go ahead and do that. We'll see what it does. So I put 2 gum pillows in my mouth. And if anybody knows anything about the difference between vaping and rubbing pouches, vaping is the nicotine buzz that you get. Like, it's like climbing a mountain as you're vaping. So you climb up to the top. Once you're at the peak, if you stop, then you're just going to come straight back down from that nicotine buzz. You're going to slowly come back down. With those nicotine pouches, you get up on top of this mountain or this peak, and you ride the peak for so long. Like, there's a period of time where you're actually staying up on the fucking peak, and it's not like you can't just take the nicotine pouches out and then fucking drop right back down. Like a vape, if you just quit hitting it, you'll eventually come back down. But with these nicotine pouches, once that nicotine's absorbed into your fucking skin and your gums, I used to tell buddies of mine, it's like, there's no getting off that roller coaster. Once you start and you're in for it, you're fucking going for it. So I remember driving, and I got to the place where I was supposed to dump the trash out. And I thought, man, I had a hard time keeping the fucking truck in between the lines. I'm so fucking buzzed. This is wild. And I remember that feeling that I had when I first started vaping. I was like, I haven't felt this kind of head rush for a long time. And at first I didn't like it, but now I'm like, it's not so bad. It actually feels really good. It doesn't make sense. Something that fucking does that shit to you would feel good. But so I switched to on pouches, did those for a while. Then went to Zen pouches because they were a little bit bigger. I thought I would like them. From the Zens, I went to Black Buffalo pouches because I thought, okay, well, I'm going to switch to Black Buffalo. They're bigger pouches. They're a lot more meaty. They're really good. I really liked them at the time. From the Black Buffalo, I switched to the Black Buffalo. I don't know if they're not Tradition. They're called, I can't remember what the fuck they're called, but they are no nicotine, no tobacco pouches. And I was like, okay, this will just get me over the hump. It'll give me something to feel like it's in my mouth, like I'm actually rubbing a pouch, but it's not there. So then I started riding bike. And the hardest part with pouches on a motorcycle, because it's really hard to ride a motorcycle and dig the can out of your back pocket and open the can and grab a pouch and put it in your lip while you're riding a motorcycle. It's very difficult. So I went back to vaping. I switched back. I knew what I wanted. I got the same shit that I did before. I was like, this is perfect. I have a cup holder mounted on my handlebars. I can pull my vape out, hit it real quick, put the vape back in the cup holder, and I can still get my nicotine fix that way. So at the time, I was the only one that vaped with the motorcycle club. And I remember everybody was like, that would ride behind me. They were like, "What are you vaping? It smells like this." And I'm like, "Yeah, it's pretty much what it is." And people were making fun of it a little bit and saying they could just follow my cloud as I was on the bike or whatever. They could smell that I was in front of them or whatever, just some stupid shit. But I did that for a while. And then I did see the guys at the motorcycle club smoking cigars. And I had never smoked, the only, I hadn't smoked any cigars up to that point in time. It was always a vape or a nicotine pouch. But when I saw the guys smoking cigars, I saw there was guys at every stop would have a cigar, or once a day would have a cigar where we're just hanging out and drinking. And people were like, "Oh yeah, cigars. You can really pair cigars with different beverages if you're drinking." And I thought, man, that would be really nice to try. I'll try maybe smoking a cigar every once in a while. And my thought was, okay, I'm not inhaling the cigar like I am this vape. And I know you do get a little bit of nicotine from the cigar, but you're not getting as much because you're not inhaling it. So I thought, okay, I'll try to slow down on the nicotine again. I'll switch over to cigars. So then that started my cigar habit and spending hundreds and hundreds of dollars on cigars. And uh, I just thought, the only people that you ever see smoking cigars are guys in the mafia, rich old guys that watch fucking golf. Like it seems like that's their pastime is fucking pulling out a cigar and watching golf. Or guys from the motorcycle club. You'll see guys in motorcycle clubs smoking cigars. And I was like, it's a gentleman's game. This is what this is. Like it's a little bit more of a sophisticated habit, I guess you want to put it that way. But I know now that's not exactly what I was shooting for. But so really for me, when it comes back down to it, the original question that I asked, is it a disease or is it a choice? For me, not experiencing the big, like harsh drug or harsh chemicals that some people are addicted to, or alcohol that people are addicted to. It's not that I ever felt like it was a disease for me. I always made the decision every time that I've put a nicotine pouch in my lip, every time that I've picked up a vape and I've hit it, every time that I light a cigar and put it in my mouth, I know that I made that choice. That's what I wanted to do. It wasn't that my body told me I had to. It's because I decided that I wanted to. And that's something that I can break. It's extremely difficult. If you ever tried to quit nicotine or give up nicotine, there's side effects from the nicotine also that you get when you when you have nicotine withdrawals. It's fucking tough to go through. I put myself through it more times than I can probably count now because I keep trying to quit. But then you find that one thing that pulls you back in and you're sucked right into it just as bad, if not worse than you were before. But I guess it's up to you as to whether you believe that you have a problem. If it's something that you ever want to decide to quit doing, it's up to you to decide whether it's worth quitting or not. Because if you're not 110% all in on it, you're never going to stop. And I think that's just basically how I've been. Every time that I've tried to stop and wanted to stop, I'm 110% for about fucking 2 days. And then I'm like, well, this fucking sucks. I could really use a fucking nicotine pouch, or boy, I could really use a hit from my vape just to get me over this hump. But getting you over the hump just gets you right back on the track that you were on before. But like I said, that was always a choice of mine. So we're going to take a quick break, guys. Stick around after the break. You're going to find out what the other addiction I struggled with is. It's definitely not something that I was at first okay with talking about, but it's something that I've talked myself into talking about. So that way, if somebody else has an addiction problem like this, they know that they're not alone in their addiction. And it's also something that I'm okay with opening up about because I know the struggles that I had with it and I was able to overcome it. And I want you guys to see the process that I went through with it. So stick around.
Are you tired of going to great clips and them fucking your shit up?
Are you fucking tired of going home and feeling like you ain't even worth getting laid? Come on down to Good Old Boys Barbershop and get you a fresh cut.
Good Old Boys Barbershop, 309 North Street, Caldwell, Ohio, 740-509-2669.
Find him on Facebook, book you an appointment, and get your shit fixed. Walk in the door feeling like shit, you're going to walk out the door feeling like $1,000,000. Coming from Wobble himself, this place is the place to fucking be. If you're in Noble County, if you're in Guernsey County, if you're in Monroe County, Ohio, it's worth the fucking drive. Get your ass down, book you an appointment, sit in this chair, and let this man cut you up right. That's Good Old Boys Barbershop, downtown Caldwell, just off the square. So this next one is where it gets hairy. This is the one, like I said, my fiance knows about this. We've talked about it. We've been open about it. I don't know who all knows this, but a lot of things that I have put out on this podcast, not a lot of people know about me, but I feel like if it's something that I can share that it helps somebody else through what they're going through, or even if you just get a laugh out of all this, which you probably may get a laugh out of some of this, I hope you enjoy it, or I hope this helps you. But another big thing that I really fucking struggled with, and I'm a man enough to admit it, I'll stand here and tell you guys, I had a real bad addiction to going to strip clubs for a while. I was like, when I sat down and I actually looked at it at a perspective, because you always tell yourself you don't have a problem, but I really had a problem. I definitely was doing some shit that normal people just wouldn't fucking do. But anyway, to deep dive into this and kind of tell you about the addiction that I struggled with this. The first time I'd ever went to a strip club was with a buddy of mine from college. So, like I said, I blame college for my addictions that I had. But I think I was 20 at the time. I wasn't 21 yet because the first strip club that we ever went to was a place that you could take your own alcohol into. And a buddy of mine's like, hey, let's go. I've never been before. I want to take somebody that I trust and take one of the dudes. He's like, why don't we just go? We'll go. It'll be a fun time. I was like, man, I don't know. I've never been to one. I've heard about them, but like, it's not my kind of place. I'm not even a bar scene kind of guy. I don't like going out to bars, period. But he's like, come on, it'll be a good time. Just try it out with me. We'll go hang out. We'll just be dudes, whatever. So we make this plan to go, buddy of mine and I. You can bring your own beer in, so you don't have to fucking be of age to buy alcohol. So a buddy of mine buys alcohol or gets it from somebody somewhere. We drive, we go to the strip club, we get there before they even open. We're sitting in the parking lot waiting for this place to open. The girls start showing up. They're talking to us in the parking lot. Oh, and I even felt like a fucking weirdo sitting in the parking lot. I'm like, this is really strange. Like, I feel very out of place being here. But I struggled in college a lot. I felt like I had trouble with my self-confidence a lot in college and even somewhat through high school, but a lot really in college. I had a girlfriend at the time, but we were off and on a lot. We argued fucking all the time about stupid shit. It was long distance. It wasn't like I could drive home on the weekends and see her. She was living in Florida at the time. It was just a high school fling that we had that we'd carried on clear through high school and then tried to keep alive while we were in college. But it wasn't like I'd have to FaceTime her to see her, and it wasn't like I could just go home over the weekends and see her. But just I struggled in the department of being around women that I found attractive, I guess I would say. Like I didn't feel like they would find me attractive because I'm fucking stupid and don't look the greatest or whatever, or something about me was dumb. But anyhow, we go into this fucking strip club and we're hanging out. And I realized when we're in there that we're the only fucking people in there. Me and my buddy were both 19, 20 years old. We're the only people in the strip club because it just fucking opened up at 9:30, 10 o'clock at night or whatever it may have been. And I'm like, man, we're getting all the attention from all these girls that work here. It's crazy. Like all these girls just want to hang out with us. But you realize after you step back and look at it, they don't give a fuck about you. None of those women in those clubs give a fuck about you. All they want is the money in your pocket. And you find that out extremely quickly when you're looking back at it from a perspective like mine. But in the time, you're like, this is great. Like, it's just awesome to have the attention. It's nice to feel like somebody gives a fuck about you and wants to talk to you about your personal shit and cares about what you have to say. But it got so bad that night, a couple other people had come in, but they didn't stay long. They left. And like, I got two girls around my arm. Buddy of mine's got two girls around his arm. He's fucking drinking and getting hammered. It got to the point where he got up on stage with one of the girls, which thank God she asked him to get up on stage with him. But the bouncer come over, snatched him up. And I'm like, oh, fuck, this ain't going to be good for us. Like I'm talking to the girl that I was talking to and I see him get snatched up and I'm like, fuck, that's my ride home. I'm going to have to go with him. And if he's getting third out, that means I got to leave. This fucking sucks. But I got to go get him because I don't know what the fuck's going on. Well, anyway, this girl tells the bouncer, hey, I brought him up there. That's my fault. I shouldn't have done that. He's fine. He didn't come up willingly. I drug him up there. Like he started taking his shirt off. It was just crazy. But we go to leave after they're getting ready to shut this place down. They go to leave. I spent way too much. But we go to leave, and I told my buddy, I'm like, hey, there's no way you're fucking driving home. You are sloshed. I will drive your truck home. No big deal. Just give me the keys. We'll go. It's probably 3:00 in the morning almost. I go leave the strip club, drive maybe 15 minutes down the road. I know that the college is probably 45 minutes back to where we were. And I know that I had passed a gas station and a cop was sitting there. And the cop had pulled out behind me in my buddy's truck. And I didn't say anything because I didn't want my buddy panicking, but I knew there was a cop behind me. I was like, okay, I'm not speeding. I knew I wasn't speeding. I also know that I haven't been drinking, but I don't want my buddy to panic because he's fucking annihilated in the passenger seat. I'm not doing anything wrong, but everything's good. And I swear that cop followed us for what felt like ever. We were maybe 5 minutes from the college, and this set of headlights finally turned out from behind me and went another way. But I was like, man, that's fucking wild. I can't believe that fucking guy come all the way there. The biggest thing I was worried about was having to lie to the cop that I was at a strip club because I didn't want to admit to a cop that I had been at a strip club. Even though I wasn't drinking, I didn't drink a single drop that night. But you feel weird about that shit after it's all said and done with. I remember coming home after I dropped my buddy in his truck off. I remember coming home and I smelled like a bar. I'd been like, you smell like smoke and perfume. And I was like, this is gross. I just feel gross now. But at the same time, like I felt like somebody gave a fuck about me other than some of my close friends. Like I felt comfortable about hanging out with chicks that night. And it was just weird. But like I said, you look back at it and that's what they want you to do because that's how you spend money there. I wasn't a drinker. I wasn't a partier. I'd never done any kind of harsh drugs. I still have it to this day just because of the way I was raised. My dad was super strict growing up. He did let me have a loose leash at times, but he would give me just enough leash to hang myself, if you want to put it that way. But my dad was super good about that. There were some things he never budged on. And I knew that I never wanted to try drugs. It just wasn't something that I was into. My addiction was nicotine and fucking strip clubs, and I was cool with that at the time. So I went that one time at college, and then I started working in the kitchen at the college. I filled up my schedule with all the open time that I had. I was working down at the kitchen for the college because I didn't have to spend my money that I was making at the time on food, because when you work in the college, you just get free food at the cafeteria when you're down there. So I was working. I was getting a bunch of food from the cafeteria. Did my 2 years there at school. Had a good time. Made a lot of good friends. Graduated from college, and I went to work driving truck again. This is back when I was vaping. And back in college, you have classes during the day, and then I worked through the evenings. And then basically after I got off my shift, I was too tired to do anything. I'd go to bed, get up the next day, do classes in the morning, right back to going to work in the evenings. I didn't have any really spare time. Everything was all taken up between classes and working. So when I graduated and I got into this working cycle where I was working AM shifts, I would work the AM shift, and then in the evenings, I wouldn't have anything to do. I wasn't seeing anybody at the time. My evenings and my weekends were fucking just boring. There wasn't anything to do. Like I said, I didn't go party with all the guys that wanted to go out to a bar and party. So for a long time, I would work the AM shifts, just tough it out and be lonely through the week. But then when it come to the weekend and I would get my check, I would turn around, cash my check. And for a while, I was saving. I was saving through college. I saved up a little bit. And I think I'd set myself a limit. Like, okay, I can blow like whatever it was, whatever limit I set myself. So I'd work super hard. I'd work overtimes on every other Saturday just so I could get a check to go and blow it at a strip club. I made sure my bills were paid. I made sure that my groceries were bought. I made sure everything was taken care of. And then what money I had left over, I allotted this much to go out and blow at a strip club. So it was frequently on weekends I was going by myself. I didn't want anybody to go with me because I didn't want to admit to anybody that I was going out and doing this, just because I felt really weird about it and other people knowing. I remember one time I was on my way to a strip club and a buddy of mine called me. I pick up the phone. Hey, what's up? What's going on? He's like, hey, what are you doing? And I couldn't think of a lie fast enough. I was like, I'm just driving. Why? What's up? He's like, well, where are you going? Just driving. I'm driving to town. I can't even remember what lie I come up with, but I couldn't admit to him that I was going to a strip club. He's like, well, I wanted you to know. And he's like, I just think of you as a high enough person. He's like, I would like to see if you would be a groomsman at my wedding. And I was like, yeah, dude, that's awesome. Like, I'm so glad that you think so highly of me and you think that you and I are close enough friends that you would ask me to be in your wedding. That's awesome. And in the same breath that I said that, I thought in my head, I'm like, if only he fucking knew where I was really going, he'd probably think I was fucking stupid. If he knew that I was on my way to a strip club, he would probably, he'd probably think, that's not the fucking dude I know. What are you doing? But I felt guilty about it. I struggled with the guilt about it, but at the same time, like it felt good to go. It felt nice to have the attention. It felt nice to be able to fucking talk to people and feel like I was wanted or needed. So I was going to different places. I was going places out of state, just traveling to go to them on the weekends. I'd spend my time down there, spend up till 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning. I'd come home, sleep, go right back out Sunday, do it again. There was the times, like I said, I had my little allotment that I would spend, and then it got to the point where I had enough money saved up. I was actually talking to my mom about it. I remember somewhat of the conversation that we had. She's like, "You're saving up a lot of money. That's really good. I'm proud of you." Again, it was like I am saving up money. I'm glad I have this nest egg. There's X amount of money in my bank account that I never touch. It's always sat there. It's for rainy days, but I could be putting so much more into it if only you fucking knew what I was doing on the weekends. And I didn't want to admit that to her. I didn't want to admit to anybody. It felt really guilty about it. And it got to a point where, like I said, it got really bad. And I felt like I had, okay, here's my nest egg. I don't touch it. I feel like I'm doing really good there. Now I'm going to get this entire check. I'm going to pay my bills to make sure everything's paid. And the rest of it's going straight to the strip club. Like, I'm allotted this much. I'm spending this much this time. And I don't really need it for anything else. All my shit's paid. It is what it is. Boom. I'd go out and blow it. And this was before I was paying student loans. So I had the extra money to spend. I wasn't putting it all towards student loans. And I believe at the time when student loans did roll back around, I made sure those bills were paid and then still would go out and blow more money at strip clubs. But I know this wasn't the stopping point, but one of the most memorable nights that I had at a strip club, I had gotten sloshed. I was by myself. I was in Mineral Wells, West Virginia. I don't know how far away that is from the house. I didn't do the math on it, but I was buying other people drinks. I was buying girls drinks. They shut the place down. I went to leave, and for some reason in my head, I thought, yeah, I can make it home. I'll be fine. Like, it's not that far. It's all interstate. I'll just set the cruise for 70, and I'll fucking just do the speed limit all the way home. And I got all the way home. I felt fine. I felt like I didn't drive bad. And right as I got off the interstate, I was still living at the same place where I was talking about before with the vape. I got off the interstate, and my house was literally right off the interstate. It was within walking distance of the interstate bridge. I get off the interstate. I go to pull in my driveway, and there's a statey sitting just across the road at the firehouse. I go to pull in my driveway. I park the car in the driveway, and I look up. And when I look up in the rearview mirror, there's blue lights from a statey pulled in my driveway behind me with the lights on. And I'm like, you've got to be fucking kidding me. I know I've been drinking. I've got my CDLs. This is going to end bad for me. I'm fucking going to jail. You think the worst, obviously, and this is a horrible decision. I know that now. At the time, I didn't think it was a bad decision. Nobody ever does. But now I'm thinking I'm so fucked. I'm down smoking. And I told myself, I was like, I'm going to die with a lie. I can't fucking admit that I've been drinking. I'm not going to admit that I've been drinking. They're going to have to find it out themselves. So the statey pulls up behind me. It's fucking 4 o'clock in the morning at this point. And statey's asking me, hey, how's it going? You know why I pulled you over? I said, no, sir, I don't. He said, you've got a license plate light out at the back of your car. I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know, which I genuinely didn't. I didn't know that I had the license plate light out. He's like, where are you coming from? And of course, like I said, I just felt the need to lie about it. I didn't want to tell anybody that I was at a strip club, let alone tell these guys I was at a strip club drinking. So my immediate lie was, well, I was coming from the South. So I'll just tell them, well, I was hanging out with some college buddies of mine. We graduated together. We're hanging out. Went to a party, just bullshitting, catching up, whatever. And he asked me, he's like, you've been drinking? And I told him no. I lied to him. I knew that I couldn't tell him that I had been, or else it would have been way worse for me. So I lied and said that I didn't. He said, okay. He said, what time did you leave there? I just made up a time. I was like, I don't know. It's probably been an hour plus ago. But I knew what he was trying to do. Now looking back at it, he was trying to get me to talk so he could smell the alcohol in my breath if there was any. But I answered his questions. He took my information. He said, okay, I'll be back. So I waited a while, and I thought for sure he was writing me a ticket. I was sitting in the car, and I knew it was taking way too long. You can tell if you've ever been pulled over by a cop. If they're just running your information real quick, it don't take long. If they're writing a ticket and they're typing all that shit out, it takes forever. At least it feels like it. So I'm waiting and just sitting in the car thinking, you've got to be shitting me. Like, I'm so fucked. I'm worried. This is crazy. I'm going to get hammered. They're going to come out and ask me to do a DUI test. And I see a flashlight in my passenger side of my car looking in the back seats. And then it comes up to the passenger window, and I roll the window down, and it's another trooper. It's somebody else that was also in the car with this guy. And he's asking me questions. Hey, where'd you say you came from? Everything good? What's going on? Blah, blah, blah. Just trying to get me talking. He's like, you sure you haven't had anything to drink tonight? And I said, no, I haven't had anything to drink tonight. I said, I went to a party, but I said, I'm not a drinker. I said, just hanging out with some guys I went to college with, some real good people. And whether they knew that I had something to drink, but I had pulled in my driveway, or whether I'm assuming they knew, but maybe they didn't know. And I was already in my driveway. They technically pulled in behind me in my driveway. They said they let me up on the main road, but I wouldn't have known, because literally you pull off the main road, pull into the alley, and then my house is right there. So they said they let me up on the main road, which I don't doubt. I just didn't see the lights. But the initiating officer come back up to the driver's side window, hands me the piece of paper. It was a fix-it ticket, basically saying, hey, you need to get this fixed. I don't know if it was a fix-it ticket or a warning. I didn't have to call anybody and tell them that I had my license plate light fixed, but he let me go and everything was fine. I never got a ticket for it. And I thought to myself, I was like, that is wild. I can't believe I got away with this. It's probably never going to be like this again. I am done drinking and driving. And I did. That was the last time that I'd ever drank and thought, I probably shouldn't drive home, but I think I can make it. Any other time, if I've had a beer or something, I'll make sure that I wait an hour and a half, 2 hours. I'll make sure that I've only had one and I've waited this long. I don't feel bad at all. I really think that I'm perfectly fine to drive. And I've made it a point to not fucking be that way. If I drink too much, I don't take chances. I'll leave my vehicle wherever it's at. I'll leave my bike in somebody's driveway. I don't care. I'm not taking chances, especially with a CDL. For those who know, the legal limit with a CDL is not 0.08. A legal limit for a CDL, I believe, is 0.02. So, like, there is no tolerance at all when it comes to that shit. And I had my CDLs at the time, so I probably would not have passed the DUI test. But I'm sure, if I'm not mistaken, I was still going to strip clubs. I just told myself I wasn't allowed to drink more than one beer or a couple beers, and then I'd have to stay the whole night before I was able to drive home. But I think one of the last times, so this is another memorable story that I have at a strip club. I remember getting in an argument with a stripper one time down in West Virginia. Went to the strip club, and I got in an argument with a girl because I had just tipped her like $8 or $9 for the dance. And then I left the stage area, and like 10 minutes go by, and she come over to me and tapped me on the shoulder. She's like, hey, is there any way I can get a couple dollars off of you for the jukebox? And I was like, I just fucking gave you $8 or $9 for the dance. Now you're coming over and bugging me for a couple more dollars for the fucking jukebox. And at the time, like, I thought that was ridiculous, but the whole goal of a fucking strip club is for you to spend your money on stupid shit. Like, you're just blowing money. So I don't know. I remember getting in an argument with this girl, like a verbal argument. I would never put my hands on anybody, but I was like, are you fucking serious? Like, I just gave you my money. I got the attention of the fucking people in the bar. They asked me politely to leave, and I did. I didn't fight it. I was like, okay, that's fine. I'll fucking leave. I'll take my business elsewhere. Went to another strip club, hung out there for a while. But I think what finally did it in for me was when I started getting on Tinder, and I had met, it's probably been fucking 3 girlfriends ago, probably, maybe, but I found that you could almost kind of get the same shit from Tinder than you could at a strip club, but it was cheaper. Like, if you wanted Tinder and you wanted to pay for like the subscription or whatever, you could, but it wasn't super expensive. And I was like, okay, I can go on Tinder and still find these girls that are somewhat attracted to me and people that want to talk to me and hang out with me. And I wasn't going to strip clubs hoping that I'd get laid, or I wasn't on Tinder hoping that, oh, I'm just going to hook up with this girl, I'm going to get laid and then fucking leave. That wasn't my goal, and it never really happened. For the most part, I just wanted the attention and somebody to talk to, and somebody who actually gave a fuck about me and remembered who I was, and just to talk to. I don't know. It's really awkward to talk about, and I'm glad I was able to fucking put it all out there and let it all out. because I hope that nobody else is struggling with this. And if you are, I really feel bad for you. And I hope that there's some way that you can get the help that you need to get out of that shit. Because looking back on it now, I'm like, man, if I would have put that money back like I should have when I was going to strip clubs all the time, I would have so much more money in the bank account. I would be so much better off than where I am now. Like after buying a house, I drained my account buying this house and getting everything ready for the house. And now I'm back living paycheck to paycheck, where back when I just out of college, if I would have banked that money and just kept banking it, not fucking touching it, not worrying about how much was in it, but just putting it straight in and paying for bills and only that shit, I'd be set. I realize that now, and I wish I would have realized it sooner. But like I said, sitting back on it, you see how much money was really wasted, and you see how detrimental it can be. Instead of really helping your self-confidence, you see how detrimental that is, because it's not a true form of any kind of relationship. It's not anything that's true. And I'm not saying if you know somebody that works at a strip club that they're a fucking bad person. I'm not trying to say that, but I'm saying, like, when you go, a person that works at a strip club, a stripper, if you will, whatever you want to call them, their objective is to make money at the end of the night. They do not care who the fuck you are. They do not care where you're from. They do not care anything about you. They want to know how much money is in your pocket and how much of it are you willing to give to me. And to be honest, if I was in their shoes, which I hope that I'm not, because I'm extremely fat and I probably wouldn't look good naked. Actually, I know I don't look good naked, at least my opinion, but I would probably feel the same way. How much money are you willing to give me? That's just it. But I chose to go to these strip clubs. I never once felt like I've got to go there. I'm not making myself go, but I never felt like I had to go to survive. I never felt like somebody was forcing me to go into it, because I was always going by myself. I never felt that I had to do it because it was just something that I did every weekend, and I can't miss this weekend because I'm not going to miss. And that was a choice that I made, and I own up to it now. I know that it wasn't the greatest thing for me, but overcoming that addiction, I think, was one of my biggest things. Like I said, I know a lot of people don't know it about me, but it's one of those things that I'm glad that I don't need that in my life. I know there have been people that in my life that have talked about, hey, let's go to a strip club. And I'm very much against it, just because I know how detrimental it was to me before. And I don't want to fall back into that, because I've seen it ruin relationships. It ruins trust with your significant other, spouse, whatever it may be, or there's nothing good that comes out of that in the long term. I was listening to Real Men, Real Conversations as a podcast. I can't remember the guy's name. I think his name's Rex, but he talks about in one of his podcasts that there's like 5 or 6 basic needs of a man. And if you can get 4 of those basic needs without having to do anything at all, it becomes an addiction. He said anything worth having is worth working for. And I fully believe that. Like, if you really want something and you truly want to achieve something or have something, it's worth working hard to get. And that boils down to this strip club thing. Like, I truly wanted somebody to give a fuck about me. I truly wanted a relationship that was going to work. I wanted a girl to like me for who I was and care about who I was. And I was getting that at a price, but I wasn't getting it. I was getting what I thought was it. But finding out that working through a relationship, and relationships are fucking hard, but working through those and making that shit all work, it's worth having. I know that the relationship that I have is real. I know that Kristen gives a fuck about me when I wake up in the morning. I know she cares about me when I get home at night, and she knows that I'm doing everything that I can to provide for her and and I just know that relationship is true. She's not just there to see how much money I have and how much money I'm willing to give. Addictions are definitely horrible things. If you've ever had one, or you know somebody struggling with addiction, they're horrible things. I hope that the person that you know, or if you're struggling with it, I hope you choose to do better. I hope that you look deep down inside, you realize what exactly, because it's not, I wouldn't say a nicotine addiction hurts other people necessarily, but a lot of addictions, especially strip clubs and even hardcore drugs, not only is the addiction that you have crippling on yourself, it's crippling to the people who love you and support you. And you're pushing those people away that actually do care about you and want to see you do better when you continue to use those substances, or you continue to do things that you know aren't good for you. But I think I said this at the beginning of the podcast. I can't remember. It's been too fucking long, but like I said, I fully believe that an addiction is a disease of choice. I believe that you make that choice and eventually it could possibly become an addiction. Thankfully, none of my addictions have become a disease. I made those choices, and every time I did, I knew what choice I was making. I did not know necessarily that the choice was wrong at the time. I thought it was something that I wanted to do, and it was perfectly fine. But I'm glad that I now know, and I've become a bigger person to know that what I was doing was super detrimental to me and wanting to change. The nicotine habit's probably not going to change. I mean, thankfully, I'm able to go an entire day without nicotine at work because I'm not allowed to have nicotine at work. And it's not worth me losing my job over. But, when I get home, anybody that's fiending nicotine knows when you get home from a long day's work, that's the first thing you want to do. Right after a meal, it's the first thing you want to do. You want to get your nicotine fix. Right before you go to bed, for me, for some reason. I don't know if it's the same way for everybody else. Before I go to bed, I want that nicotine fix. When I first wake up, I want that nicotine fix. So I hope you guys, if you're struggling with an addiction that you want to overcome, I hope that you guys strive to do better. I hope you guys really do buckle down and find the real root of why you're doing the things that you're doing wrong. Or if you enjoy your nicotine habits, I guess I can say that enjoy them, I guess. I mean, I enjoy mine, but it's not something that I hope I don't fucking end up with cancer over the stupid shit. But like, I do. I enjoy a nice cigar. I really do. An occasional one. And I hope that I don't ever, I hope I can find something to replace that. I guess I'll put it that way. If I can find something that replaces a cigar that does it as good as I just said all that. I'm sitting here thinking about it. I just said all that. And then during this podcast, I said, you're not going to find the dopamine levels because you're getting synthetic dopamine pumped into your body. So I'm not going to find anything that's going to make me feel like I feel when I smoke a cigar. But hopefully, eventually, I can work through that and I can find a way to put that aside, knowing that smoking's bad for me, the nicotine's bad for me, and get through that and realize that what I'm doing is detrimental and I would be so much better without nicotine in my life. But I hope that this helps you guys. I hope you listen to this and you got something out of this, whether it was a laugh, whether it was something serious. If it's something that you're struggling with, I hope you realize that. I hope you, if you decide to make a change, I will hope the best for you. But that's all pretty much. I want to thank you guys for listening. I want to thank you guys for all that you do, all the support. If you're listening on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you choose to listen, I ask that you like, comment, subscribe, leave a rate, review, whatever you guys can do to help make this podcast grow and help it reach more people. That's my end goal out of all of this, is just really to help get this word out to other people. So I really appreciate it. If you guys would like to reach out to me, tell me something that you're struggling with. If you know somebody's struggling with something, if you have questions, don't hesitate. I'm here for you guys. I hope that you guys do reach out and let me know if this touched you in any sort of type of way. Or if you thought something was funny, let me know. I'm sure I've got fucking stories for days about stupid shit like this. But thanks again, guys. I appreciate it. And until next time, just stay wobbled for me. That's all I could ever ask of you. Thank you, guys. Have a good one.